Hello. So good morning. How's everybody doing? Good. Well, welcome back. I do apologize. I missed you last week, and I think I told some of you had a little bit of a family emergency, and I think you understand how that goes. We have to be where we are. So I did miss you, but I heard that the Parks and Rec and the Public Works was really exciting. So, you know, I'm going to put you on the spot, Gigi. Tell me something you learned from Parks and Rec.
They take pride in their grass.
And they do take pride in their grass, and it takes a lot to grow grass. I was talking to somebody this morning about growing grass. I can't remember who I was talking to, but it does take a lot. It takes a lot of equipment, a lot of skill, and a lot of timing, and sometimes keeping people off those grassy fields so that it has time to grow and do what they need to do. So what did Mike learn from Public Works?
Public Works, about the water situation. It was very interesting to watch like the testing that they do every day, all the time. It makes me feel a little bit better about the water that we're getting in our houses, because I do double filter it already, but not thinking that the steps they take and how much they care, or they seem to care, I think is really good, very good. I'm now a salesperson for Deltona Water, in a way.
Very good. Well, that's...
encourage everybody to trust them.
Right, and that's good to hear. And did they talk about the credentialing that the staff needs to be in those positions? So again, it goes back to HR that we talked about several weeks ago, you know, how some of these positions in city government or county government are so specific, and they take great training and stuff.
Many vacancies, and especially in the middle or top, because it takes so long to get credentialed.
That's right.
Certified and all that, and people, young people, aren't willing to go through the whole, like 4 years of college almost.
Right, and we're seeing that with our building department trying to find a plans examiner because of their credentialing, and it seems like we're not, the industry is not kind of preparing for the future. So we're all struggling in some of our divisions with some hiring and getting the right people. And so what we're going to do today is we have some amazing people to present to you. We have our fire chief, we have our Volusia Sheriff's Office. I understand we're going to see Sheriff Chitwood. He should be coming, so that'll be exciting. So what I'd like to do is introduce Chief Bill Snyder. He is your Deltona Fire Chief. He's been with the agency for about 7 years. He has 40 years of fire science profession behind him, and he is going to present to you. But I also want to introduce, please wave for us, Sharon Shivers is our fire marshal. She has joined us in case we have any questions related to fire marshal. And Amanda is here. She is the executive assistant to the fire chief. She runs the facility for him. So welcome, Chief.
Thank you. So I'm here to talk about the fire department, and the fire department's just not a fire department anymore. There's so much other stuff that we do nowadays that realistically fighting fires is not one of the major things that we do anymore. It is one of the most staff-intensive things that we do, but we run far more EMS calls than we do anything else anymore. So. Our fire department, I just want to start off with our vision statement. Our vision statement is to always provide exceptional service, and that's what we strive to here. It's more than just going out and doing what we're supposed to do. We want to take it to the next level every time that we're out there, just to try to go that above and beyond thing. This is our mission statement. Basically, our mission is to prevent the loss of life and property, and we do that through the rest of our mission statement. We do that by being innovative. Things change all the time. The fire service is a science, and there's research that's going on all the time, and we change the way we do things. Our strategy and tactics on fighting fires is different today than it was just 10 years ago because of the way things change. So we have to be innovative and stay on top of the latest things. Also, to be prepared and to safely and mitigate all hazards. That's through training. Fire departments are only as good as their training, and we do a lot of training here in the fire department here in Deltona, just to keep us up to speed with what's going on and making sure we're good at what we do. Also, the way we prevent the loss of life of property is through fire prevention and life safety education. I'm going to go into that a little bit later on, but that's our proactive way of doing things. If we can prevent the event from happening, that's far better than responding to it after it does happen. So that's the proactive side of our house. You know, the reactive side is when an emergency happens, we react and we go to the call and we try to mitigate that the best we can. And we all do that while trying to, while treating those that we serve and our team members as family. So I tell my new guys all the time, the way we want to provide that exceptional service is when you go out there, you want to treat people like their family. You know, like you would want your family to be treated. And that's what our guys and gals do on an everyday basis when they go out for these types of calls. Little statistics for you. Last year, 2022, we ran over 12,000 calls for service. That's about 33 calls a day that we're running. And you can see in the last 12 years, we're up almost we are up 4,000 calls from where we were in 2010. We're up 5% on calls just in the last year. These are 5 stations that we have here in the city of Deltona. City of Deltona is 41 square miles with a population of 95,000, a little over 95,000. I really think it's a little more than that, but that's what our census tells us. And we cover it with the 5 stations. Station 61 there on Providence Boulevard there in the middle is our main station. It also houses our administration where I work and all of our administrative staff work. You've got Station 62 over in Diamond Street off of Deltona Boulevard. And we've got 63 over on Howland near Elkham, 64 on Fort Smith near Cortland, and then 65 is up on Howland again, up near Martin Luther King Boulevard. We do that with 93 full-time personnel in the department. 78 of those personnel are on the operations side that are staffing the engines and that kind of stuff. And then we have 15 in the administrative side that supports those people that actually run the calls. Breakdown by station, you can see that our Station 61 by far is our busiest station. Over 4,000 calls last year out of that one particular house. That's 11 calls a day. That's almost 1 every 2 hours. 62 and 63 are our next busiest, and then 64 and 65 rounded out with, you know, how many calls that we run. And then that breaks it down by fire, EMS, hazardous materials, service calls, false alarms, all that kind of stuff. So we are a fairly busy department. Our average response time is 6 minutes and 53 seconds. That's calculated from the time we actually receive the call from our dispatch center to the time that we actually pull up on scene. And again, that's an average, so it's 50% of the time. So 50% of the calls were over that, 50% of the calls were under that, and that's one of the reasons why we're starting to look at another station around here in the city. We're starting to look at that more aggressively. The National Fire Protection Agency sets standards for the fire service. Their standard is they want to see a response time of about 5 minutes for EMS calls and 5 minutes and 20 seconds for fire calls. So you can see we're a little over that, so we need to start looking at ways we can knock that response time down a little bit. One of the ways we did that is by installing Opticom traffic light sensors in all of the traffic lights around the city. What that does is when we turn our emergency lights on in the truck and we come up to an intersection, it'll turn our light green and everybody else's light red so that we can go through that intersection a lot more safely and a lot more quickly and try to get to those calls in a timely fashion.
Chief, can I interrupt you?
Sure.
What do you find is one of your biggest challenges in responding, getting through traffic, and getting people to be attentive to you?
One of the biggest challenges nowadays is how well cars are built, how soundproof they are. So a lot of times we're right up on top of people before they actually hear us or see us. So we've been talking about being innovative. They've got what they call a growler now, which is a certain type of a siren, and that thing will actually vibrate and rattle. So it kind of rattles the car in front of you to get your attention a little quicker without scaring you to death. So, but anyway. All right, accreditation. We're working towards accreditation here in the fire department. It's about a 3-year process at the very minimum, sometimes as much as 5 years. We're about 1.5 years into that. So, and basically what it does is it provides a framework for the fire department to work off of national standards type stuff that we talked about. For quality improvement, it wants, it's a thing where you're continually trying to improve what you do. And you do that by figuring out where your weaknesses are, where your strengths are, and then using data to actually build on those strengths and try to fix those weaknesses. And then in the end, it provides standardization for our fire department, and we're trying to get to that point. It's a daunting process, quite honestly. It's a lot more than I thought when I first got into it. So. ISO, the Insurance Service Organization, is another group that grades fire departments on how they do. They look at your water systems, they look at your response, they look at how many people you send. Basically, they're just looking at fires from this standpoint, and then the insurance companies use this grading system to determine, not all of them, but most of them use this grading system to determine insurance costs. So the better your fire department is, the lower your rate is. Deltona, we have an ISO rating of 2. The scale is 1 to 9. 10 is like you're just not graded. So it's actually 1 to 10, but 10 is, good luck. So 1 is the best. We're a 2 here in Deltona, and according to the website, there's only 1,729 departments nationwide that are a class 2. So we're doing fairly well here in Deltona. Still got some improvement to go, but that's like everything else. Kind of spoiled my little thing here. So the next thing I'd like to talk a little bit about is fire prevention. Fire prevention is, again, our proactive way to try to prevent loss and life of property, and doing it in a way that actually prevents fires. And to do that, I'd like to tell you a little story, okay? There's a guy named Rick Riscola, and he used to work for Morgan Stanley Dean Witter. They worked in a high-rise building, and they covered 20 floors of that building with 2,700 employees, almost 2,700 employees. Rick was in charge of the security and prevention for that place. So every 3 months, Rick would come down to those 2,700 employees and say, fire drill, and all 2,700 employees had to stop what they were doing and traverse down the stairwell, because you don't take an elevator when you're evacuating a building, down the stairwell and outside, and then they would do an accountability check to make sure everybody was there, and then they could go back to work. You can imagine what they thought about old Rick, especially when, they were hot into something and he just surprises them, okay? But on September 11th, 2001, when the planes hit the World Trade Center, they had a plan that they had practiced, and they knew what to do, okay? The first plane hit the north building. They were in the south building, okay? The traditional thought was, for high-rise buildings, was you shelter in place unless you're actually threatened by the fire. If you're not threatened by the fire, you just stay in your offices and you wait till you're told to leave, because no high-rise building up to that point had ever collapsed due to fire. And they were on the horn saying, shelter in place, shelter in place. And now they were in the south building, so they wasn't even threatened at that point, but Rick knew what he was doing, and Rick called for the evacuation of those employees. He was a security guy too, so he knew about terrorism and that kind of stuff, and he kind of thought that there may be more coming. Because they had a plan, and because they executed it, all 2,700 people got out of that building without a problem. Because of the fire prevention techniques. They did lose 13 people that worked for Morgan Stanley that day. One of them was Rick, because once he got everybody out and everybody was safe and everybody was accounted for, he went back in to try to help the rest of the people. And when it collapsed, he died that day. True American hero. But anyway, that's what I mean about fire prevention. You save a lot more lives with fire prevention than you do responding to calls. Okay, and that's why we take it so seriously here in Deltona. These are some of our statistics on some of our fire inspection, fire safety stats that we do. The main one you can see is down there in 2022, we found 963 violations. And of that, 774 of them were corrected in 2022. The rest were probably corrected in 2023. You know, it's important what we do, and people really don't understand it. And we get a majority of the complaints about the fire department from our inspection group when they go in. And it's because people just don't understand why we're doing what we're doing, because some of the stuff that we ask for may seem silly to them, okay? But everything that we do fire prevention-wise is there's a code base behind it. The Florida Fire Prevention Code is what we use to inspect buildings, okay? It's not something that's made up here in Deltona. We don't have our own little things that we made up, our own little codes or anything. It's all based on the Florida Fire Prevention Code. And so I'll just give you an example of something that may seem pretty silly. If we come to your business and you've got over a certain amount of people that are going to occupy your building in a day, your door has to swing out. Okay? Now that may be silly, it may seem silly when we come in and say, you know, your door swings in, you got to change that door out and it has to swing out. Okay? But almost everything, not everything, almost everything in that fire prevention code is based on a disaster somewhere. There's something that happened. And if you go back to the Coconut Grove Supper Club fire back in the 1970s, over 400 people died in that building. Okay? There was a fire that occurred. People panicked. They rushed to the door. A huge crowd of people rushed to the door. When they got to the door, guess which way the door swung? It swung in. And you had this big mass of people pushing against the door, and they couldn't open it. And a couple hundred people died because that door opened in instead of out. Okay? They were feet from being outside and being safe. Okay? So that's, you know, just an example of what may seem like a silly code, but there's a reason, there's a tragedy, there's something that's happened, and that's why we enforce those things. Some of our other divisions, our EMS division, a good amount of what we do is EMS nowadays. All of our firefighters are trained in EMS. They're all at least a basic EMT or they're an advanced paramedic. EMTs do splinting, provide oxygen, basic patient assessments, things like that. But our paramedics do far more than that. To be a paramedic nowadays is almost 15 months worth of training at Daytona State College if you go there. On top of that, once you graduate, you got to go get state certified, and then you got to come back here to Deltona, and you have to work with one of our preceptors in the fire department for us to train you how we do it here in Volusia County. Once we get you to the point where you're trained up, then you have to go see the county medical director, who's a doctor that's certified in emergency medicine. And that doctor certifies you to work here in Volusia County. And that's all the stuff that they do. There's a certification called Advanced Cardiac Life Support that you have to be a paramedic and work here in the city of Deltona. That's the same certification that doctors have to work in an emergency room. And that allows our paramedics to be able to interpret rhythms on the monitors to see what kind of heart rhythm you're having. Allows them to provide certain kind of medications to counteract those types of things if you're having a heart attack or something like that. They also are able to provide medications for people that are having difficulty breathing and stuff like that. So it's really specialized anymore, and you know, I'm really proud of our paramedics here. They do a great job, and there's a lot of education that goes into it. Some more statistics of those 12,000 calls that we ran, 900 of them were medical, or about 75%. And also, if you notice up there, our ALS medical calls, almost half of the calls that we ran, or over half of the calls that we ran, were advanced life support calls where those paramedics had to do something. We also provide EMS transport here in the city. We have 2 ambulances. Last year, we provided over half of the transports here, and then Volusia County EMS picked up the other half. Another division is our training division. Like I said earlier, fire departments are only as good as their training, okay? We have to stay on top of what the latest trends are, and then we have to practice that to get better at what we do. It's one thing to know how to do something, it's another thing to do it well, okay? So we are constantly out there learning new and practicing what we know so that we can stay as good as we possibly can. If you think about it like a baseball team, every time the baseball team takes the field, they throw the ball around. Well, I'm sure they know how to throw the ball, but they do it because they practice to get better at what they do, and that's what we do with training. Some of the pictures, you can see our training we try to make as realistic as we possibly can to give our guys every advantage when they come out to take care of the public that we serve. Emergency management is something else that we do here in the city. Actually, emergency management's done by several departments here in the city. The fire department's part of that is a response part of it. If there's a storm coming or something happens where we have to activate our emergency operations center, the fire department, along with a lot of other city staff, manage that operation. Fire department provides training for those staff so they know what they're doing when they're in the building. We also have what we call a comprehensive emergency management plan. That plan is updated every 5 years, and we're in the middle of that process right now. So it just keeps up with the planning part of how we operate here in Deltona. Now, we have other departments that deal with mitigation, with recovery. We've just hired a project manager, Kimberly. I don't know if you've met her yet, but she's doing an outstanding job at some of the recovery efforts that we have here in the city from our last couple storms. Let's see, logistics in another division. We have a logistics building, a logistics group that provides all the supplies and stuff we need to operate as a fire department. And this was one of our fire stations for a number of years. It was actually our very first fire station. The bay portion of it, without the side part, the site wing, the bay portion of it was built in 1965 for the Deltona Volunteer Fire Department. And then years later, the side was put on for sleeping quarters as the station was staffed, for living quarters, for sleeping, eating, that kind of stuff while the crews were at the station. And then we decommissioned this about 10, 12, 15 years ago, something like that, when we built that station over on Diamond Street, Station 62, and it became our logistics building. Some of our teams, we have a special operations team. This is another highly specialized group of people that deal with special incidents that don't occur very often. They're high-risk, low-frequency type calls. Things like trench rescue, things like structural collapse. You would be surprised, unless you think about all of our streets here in Deltona, how many cars we get in houses. We get a lot, okay? So they were able to go in and under normal circumstances, they're able to shore that building up. They also do vehicle extrication, the technical stuff, the highly skilled stuff. Also high-angle rescue, where you use ropes to rescue people from high places, and also hazardous materials. The technical rescue portion of our team is actually a state-sponsored team, and we could be deployed anywhere in the state as a technical rescue team if we're needed for an event. One of our teams I like to call our bumblebees. Our bike team, we use those for special events because they're able to get into those tight places. There's always a paramedic and an EMT with almost all the same equipment that you would have on a fire engine that would come to your call.
Chief, can I interrupt you? Yep. When did you start that, and is there special training to be a bike officer for the event?
I want to say we started that about 20 years ago. Don't hold me to that number, but in that ballpark. And yes, there is some special training to be able to ride the bikes, to be able to ride them safely and that type of stuff. It's more than just jumping on it like you did when you were a kid and going. Plus, they're carrying a bunch of EMS supplies, so you got all that weight on the bike that can send you in the wrong direction if you're not careful. So we've also got our honor guard. Our honor guard was formed mostly to honor those that have fallen in the fire service at their funerals. They also show up at special events and parades and things like that to present the colors. Let's see what else we got here. Some of our community programs, we provide CPR classes every month. Again, life safety programs. CPR has changed a lot over the years. Every 2 years we have to recertify, and every 2 years there's something new that we learn with it. And you can come in and learn hands-only CPR now and give a person a lot better chance to survive should they be in cardiac arrest and you be the only person there. So if you're interested, once a month we teach those classes.
How do they sign up, Chief?
They just call down to the fire department and talk to either Maria or Amanda, and they can sign up, and we'll get them in those classes.
Is there a fee?
Yes, it's $50 for the class. That includes the books, the masks that you'll take with you, the card itself, and obviously the instruction.
And it lasts for a year, right? 2 years
2 years.
for the credentials.
Yep,
Okay. Do you
2
have a
years.
question? Okay, Stephanie.
Thank you. What is the youngest age for the CPR classes? Do you also offer them for children and teenagers? And
Age in order to get a certified card is 13, and they have to be competent, so they have to be able to understand the concepts and be able to pass the test at the end. Usually we tell you, like, if your parent is paying for a card and you have like a 10-year-old and you have somebody with like special needs in your house or an older grandparent, and you want them to learn it, as long as you feel confident to keep your child behave during class, we'll let you bring your kid with. They just won't get a card. And then, like I said, we just ask you to keep your child under control during the class so everybody else can learn. And if there's an issue, kind of know that we'll ask you to step out and we'll try to teach you again later.
Awesome. We have one more question.
How long is the class?
4 hours.
4 hours? Okay, thank you.
Usually Saturday from 9 to 1.
Saturdays, 9 to 1.
And all of it's on our fire department website.
Okay. We also have a child safety seat program that we do where we'll actually install the car seats for children. We got a lot of new parents and a lot of new grandparents that come in that have never installed a car seat before, and maybe they don't have the directions, or even if they do, it is a pretty technical process to put a car seat in, to get it in right. If your car seat is in and it moves more than like a ½ inch, then it's not in correctly. So it should not move much at all if it's incorrectly. So if you're interested, again, same thing, call down to the fire department. We can set you up a time to stop by one of our fire stations, and they'll be glad to do that for you. We do blood pressure checks. A lot of times people, as doctors, ask them to come to monitor their blood pressure over the next few months. We're glad to do that. We have smoke alarm installations. If you own your home and you can't afford a smoke detector, we'll be glad to put one in. Or if you're having trouble installing a smoke detector, give us a call and we'll be glad to come out and help you with that. That's actually one of the older smoke detectors that have a 6-month battery in it. Smoke detectors now come with 10-year batteries, so you put them up, and for the most part, you don't have to change the battery and mess with them. But we do recommend every month or so that you go up and you test it to make sure that there's not an issue with your smoke detector. But if you need help with it, just give us a call. Presentations like this. Also, October is Fire Safety Month, so we try to get out to all of our elementary schools and preschools and try to do fire safety education with our kids during the month of October. We can't get to every school because there's just so many of them nowadays, but we do our best to get out to do that. We have our Back to School Safety Day, where we partner with the Hispanic Association of Volusia County. Advent Health and Halifax Health are our three main big sponsors. We have several other sponsors as well, but we give out 1,000 backpacks every year, usually in August. Our event this year is scheduled for August 6th at the center. So, and we'll be giving out 1,000 backpacks with supplies and stuff like that. And then we also bring partners from the community come in, and they also give out supplies and things to help the kids in school.
So, Chief, how do you get those products? How do you make the backpacks? Donations?
Yes, through donations. The big sponsors that we have up there provide a good portion of the money that we use. Then we buy it in bulk so that we can get a better price. And then we set it all up so that when you come, it's an easy operation. You get a backpack and you just start stuffing it as you go throughout the event. Our open house, we haven't had that for a couple years because of COVID, but we're going to try to have it again this year in October, where we invite you into our fire station over on Station 65 on Howland near Martin Luther King. Boulevard, and we do demonstrations on auto extrication and how to use a fire extinguisher and stuff like that, as well as a bunch of safety information, things like that. And then finally, our Operation Deltona Cares, our local union started this up a number of years ago, and every year we help out several families that are in need of help at Christmas time. We generally provide anywhere in the near of around 30 families and usually around 100 kids or so with stuff for Christmas. On Black Friday, you see our Fill the Fire Truck event. We take our fire truck out to Walmart. Thank you. We take our fire truck out to Walmart, and we sit out there for several hours during that day on Black Friday, and the city of Deltona is just amazing. We fill that fire truck probably 4 and 5 times with gifts that people donate, that then we in turn donate to the kids that need it here in our community. So, great event. Some of our department priorities: quality customer service is obviously one of our main priorities. It's our vision statement, right? To provide exceptional service. Community outreach: we want to be a community-based fire department. We get out into the community, I won't say daily, but we're out there at least a couple times a week attending different events that are going on throughout the community. And then health and safety is another big priority for us in the fire department. Mental health, more firefighters die of suicide every year than they do actually fighting fire. We're far more susceptible to that than the general public, as well as law enforcement. Cancer, everything now is made of synthetics. So everything burns hotter, faster, and with far more intensity, okay, than it did before. And all of that puts off way more smoke, which has way more carcinogens in it, and we deal with that stuff. And so we've got different procedures and policies in place to try to, get that stuff off us as quickly as possible. Physical fitness, staying physically fit. It's a tough job. As hot as it is nowadays, we're putting on 50 pounds of gear, encapsulating ourselves, and you got to be fit to do the job. And then firefighter safety in general. We have several committees throughout the fire department, including a health and safety committee that focuses on events and focuses on safety of the fire department. If there's somebody that gets injured, or we have what we call a near miss where they almost get injured, those events all get looked at, and we looked at different ways to try to prevent those things from happening again, okay? And then finally, I just want to go back to fire prevention just a little bit because I left out a little portion of it. Remember when I told you that Rick at the World Trade Center, he had his people trained, he had a plan, and he had practiced that plan? What I was supposed to say after that was, do you? Okay? Because fire can overwhelm a house in the right conditions in just about 5 minutes. Okay, that's not a lot of time to get out of a house, okay? So what you want to do is go home to your families, draw out your house, figure out 2 ways to get out of every room in your house, okay? Make sure that you can get out the windows if you need to, and that your family members can get out the windows if they need to. Make sure that you have a meeting place to meet if something should happen and you have to evacuate your house. Okay, so that we know everybody's out of the house. And if they're not, when we get there, you tell us who's not there and where they're probably at, and that's right where we're going. Okay? Make sure you sleep with your doors closed. The best thing to keep smoke and fire out of your bedroom is a door. So if you keep it closed, you far more chance of surviving that event if it becomes, a well-involved fire. And then finally, probably most importantly, is a working smoke detector. Okay, 66% of people that die in home fires do not have a working smoke detector. Okay, so with a working smoke detector, that gives you far more ability to get out. You know about the fire far sooner, and you can escape through a normal means like a front door usually, as opposed to having to bail out a window at the last minute. So So that was supposed to be there when I was talking about prevention. So I just want to make sure I get it in there because it's most important that you all take some information home like that so that you can be prepared, so that you can have a plan and you can execute that plan when it needs to happen. Because nobody thought planes were going to hit the trade center. And you probably don't think you're ever going to have a house fire. But you could. Okay? And with that, I'll leave you with our motto. We serve our community with pride, dedication, and honor. These are the men and women that do that every day, that go out there and provide that exceptional service. I can't tell you how proud I am of them. They do amazing work on an everyday basis. And with that,
Do we have any questions? Chaz?
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Do you have my friend has diabetes, and we've always been told, take your sharps to the fire department to drop them off,
Yes.
or your old medications. Can we do that?
yes. Your medications you want to take to like a pharmacy or the sheriff's department, and they will accept those and get rid of them. You're still doing medications, right? Yeah. The sharps, though, you can bring to us, and we will take your sharps, and we'll give you a brand new container when you leave.
Okay, thank you. Any plans to do a calendar? I mean, the fire department calendars are infamous, you know.
Yeah, no, not really. Not really.
Okay. One more, or we got two more. One here,
Okay.
one there.
Thank you.
Oh, I got you.
I don't know if you know the statistics off the top of your head, but how often would you say it's beneficial to have a fire extinguisher in the house? So like how often did it help in a situation?
I don't have any statistics for you, so I can't really give you, but I will say it will help. I mean, if you can catch the fire early and you feel confident and you've planned and you've practiced, then you can put fires out, and people do on a regular, not a regular basis, but yes, you can pick them up at Lowe's, Home Depot, Kmart, Walmart. Well, Kmart, not much anymore, right? That shows you how old I am. Walmart, that type of stuff. We suggest that you just get the I don't want to call them cheapies because they're good extinguishers, but you get the less expensive ones that don't have to be recertified. They're good for a year, and then what you do is you take them out back and you practice with it, and you throw it in the garbage and you get a new one. And every year it's like, I don't know, $20 for an extinguisher like that, as opposed to $30, $40 to get your fire extinguisher recertified at a place that does that.
Like little aerosol ones.
Yeah, yeah.
Special, like if you can use bug spray, you can use that fire extinguisher.
Yeah, I kind of recommend the ones that are for like ABC extinguishers because they're good for all types of fires for the most part, except electrical. But other than that, they're good for all types of fires. So that's what I would recommend. Yeah.
Okay, we have two more. We have
Okay.
Pamela.
Yes. What kind of specialized training, if any, does your staff receive in intervening in situations that involve people with mental health issues, since that's a big situation in today's society? Access and affordable mental health care is tough, and there's a lot of crisis situations, and so I'm sure you end up getting involved in some of those one way or the other. What kind of training does your staff receive?
We, through our normal, through the paramedic school and EMT schools, we get some training and that type of stuff. And then every couple years, we try to provide some sort of training like that. We have a computer program we call, it's called Target Solutions. Or no, it's called Vector Solutions. They just got bought out. But anyway, Vector Solutions. And that computer program has all kinds of different things that we can train on, including that. Yeah. And we've also done some training for people with like autism and things like that. And so it's, every couple of years we try to touch things like that. Yes.
That was a great question. And if you remember when we had the code compliance presentation, I had mentioned that we had just put the code officers through mental health training, and it was great. Yeah. Maria, last question.
Yeah. As far as the schools, do they do fire drills?
Yes. I'm not sure. Sharon, do you know how many times a year they do them? Or?
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, they do them. Probably they do them every year, obviously. They do monthly. They have changed the way that they do drills. They're not necessarily now evacuating. They're kind of sheltering in place simply because of the day and age that we're in. They'll sound the alarm, but they'll shelter in place, and then they'll send a representative from the school to go and verify when the alarm has gone off to make sure that it's a legit alarm. And then if they decide that they have to evacuate, then they will. But they do monthly drills with the school. They're just not necessarily now evacuating.
Like we used to do.
Yeah, he used to pull the alarm, and everyone would go out, and those days have changed, unfortunately.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's all about the active shooter stuff. So.
Well, another great question, and what I'd like to do is we, thank the chief and Sharon and Amanda. I'd like you to tell us why you serve, Chief.
Well, quite honestly, I just think it's the best job in the world, with all due respect to all the other professions that are out there. If you're a person that is selfless and cares about others, then this is the best job in the world. There's no better feeling than to go out there and do something for somebody for which they can never pay you back. And it's not that we're looking to be paid back, because that's not the case at all. It's really about doing the job. That's really what makes it worth it. But if you can go out there and save somebody's life or somebody's loved one's life, or you can rescue their prized possessions, you can do that for people. It doesn't get any better than that. And that's the main reason. And then we also have a pretty good brotherhood throughout the fire service. I could go to Australia and walk into a fire station and talk to another firefighter like we've known each other for years. So those two things is probably why I do it. So
awesome.
I think Brandy had a
Brandy,
question
do you have
as
a
well.
question? All right, we'll wrap it up here.
It was a couple, but they all pretty much go together. So you talked about the response time. A big problem is the increase in traffic. Some of the other things I saw, like the increases in calls and things, how much of that has to do with the increase in development? And are you concerned about the big developments on like Lake Helen Osteen Road and Howland, and the traffic impact it's going to have on our response times as well?
Well, obviously, the more people we have here in the city, and developments are going to bring more people in, the more calls we're going to have, and the more traffic that's going to be on the road for the most part. So it is somewhat of a concern. I don't know if it's, I don't know what the words are, but, I'm not overly concerned about it, but it is something that we have to plan for and take care of. The apartment buildings that you're talking about is the first time that we've ever had apartment buildings that are 4 and 5 stories. So we're having to change the way we plan to fight fires like that, which we've just bought emergency escape kits for our firefighters now. So if they've got to bail out a window because things are going bad on the 4th floor, they've got a way to get out that window. So there are some things that we are doing to stay up with the times, to be innovative, like in our mission statement. So I don't know if that answered your question or not.
You got another one?
Yeah, for the most part, it does. Also, how does that affect numbers? So, like, where are we at our threshold of how many personnel we need per,
Well, mostly where we're driven is more about response times than it is calls. Our station 61, where I said we're running 11 calls a day, that one is getting close to being, needing some help, The other ones are, okay, 2 and 3 are running almost 2,500 calls a day, so they're getting up there, but we're still managing that with no problem at all. Where we really look and where we really focus on as a fire department is our response times. How fast can we get to where we need to be? And traffic does have something to do with that. Now a lot of our roads are being expanded, so that helps out quite a bit for us. When it comes to some of that response time, the opticoms that I said we put in the traffic lights help out quite a bit. But that's, and that's where we're focused on, we have, remember when we put 65 in service? It's been 12, 15 years? 12 years? Yeah. So our last fire station was built 12 years ago. So, and that's when we were running 8,000 calls, a little over 8,000 calls a year. And now we're upwards of 12. Response times are creeping up a little bit. So now that's why we're starting to investigate and look into possibly adding another station somewhere around the city.
Yeah, beautiful. So that's what you do. You have to do a lot of long-range planning, and
Yes.
you have to be involved with all the processes that are going on with the other departments. And that takes us back to where we talked about how the different departments tentacle out, right? Remember, we kept talking about that. We're all involved with the fire department, whether it be planning, city clerk's office and everything. But we need to wrap up. We thank you, Chief. We thank you, Sharon and Amanda. You guys have a good day. Let's give them a round of applause. Awesome. So we're going to get moving because I wanted to introduce your city manager walked in, Jim Chisholm. He's in the back of the room. Thank you for joining us. And also our sheriff, Mike Chitwood, has arrived. We're so happy he's here. He's coming on down. And over here we have Captain Powers, Eric Powers. He is our point of contact that we get to work with at the city of Deltona. And then he has brought Deputy Joe, who is one of our county canine officers. So at this time, I'd like to welcome the sheriff up if he wants to come on down. They're recording, so they like you to talk.
Okay, they're recording. Good morning. It's an honor to be here, and I want to compliment you for taking the time to learn about how city government really works. It's easy to criticize it if you don't understand how it works, but for you to come out and see it and hear it, I think it gives you a better perspective. So the Sheriff's Office has been around since 1884. We have the contract with Deltona. It's not quite $12 million, but it's close enough. We supply 88 deputies plus the full force of the Sheriff's Office. And what do I mean by the full force of the Sheriff's Office? Two examples would be, while you have your own narcotics unit that's assigned here, some of those narcotics investigations tentacle out into other counties, and that's when our big narcotics unit, known as VBI, Volusia Bureau of Investigation, would come in to assist. Same thing happens with homicides. Same thing happens with rape. The specialized detectives that are based out of our operations center come into Deltona. Occasionally, we'll pull our traffic unit in here. So even though you're paying for 88, there are some days that you could get an extra 30 or 40 deputies depending on what is going on in the city. We're closing in on 500 sworn, and we have about 500 civilians, so I have almost 1,000 people. Our budget is close to $130 million a year. Not only do we do all the policing stuff, but I also am in charge of countywide dispatch. So the contract, the county gives me $22 million a year to dispatch police, fire, and EMS for the entire county. And then we also have courthouse security. We have about 100 and some odd deputies that are assigned to all the courthouses that do everything from work in the judge's chamber to transporting prisoners to screening folks that are coming in. Civil process, anything that has to do with any of that stuff all falls under the purview of the sheriff. So with Deltona, obviously, we treat you as a city police department with all of the ancillary stuff that comes. Captain Powers is your quasi-police chief. So there's a captain out here, there's 2 lieutenants, there's 4 or 6 sergeants. 8 sergeants, 10 sergeants, and then the rest are all the deputies that work out here. We have a specialized traffic unit just for Deltona. I went out and purchased, I'm not supposed to say this, but like a Mustang and a Charger and a couple pickup trucks, and those folks do nothing but traffic. And a statistic he'll throw out at you is we had a 30-day traffic op in Deltona last month, and we wrote
we did just under 700 traffic stops and wrote just over 600 citations, 36 arrests in July.
And that is just the traffic unit. That's not the deputies that are out there doing different things. We have been blessed, as you know, law enforcement around the country has been unable to recruit. And when COVID hit, we went to 80 vacancies. Now, imagine what that does to an organization when you have 80 vacancies. Nobody was getting a day off, and if you did get a day off, you were on call, which meant you couldn't go out to dinner and have a couple glasses of wine, and you had to be able to respond within an hour. So with the help of Senator Tom Wright, we were able to get in to talk to the governor and say, hey, this model is not working. The model of you go to Daytona State College and then we all hire you on, this isn't working. We got to change that. So based on the fact that we have a certified range, a certified driving track, certified classroom, certified instructors, certified defensive tactics lab, the governor allowed us to start our own academy. So we were able to go across the nation, especially with the bill that the governor passed, $5,000 for anybody coming in out of state, $1,000 for help with relocation fees, and we opened up our own academy. It was a public-private partnership. The public raised about $250,000 to remodel the building for me. Since we have done that, we've gotten over 1,500 applications. We've hired 179 people. We have our fifth academy class is coming in July. We have what's called an NDT class, which is new deputy training. They're folks who are already certified law enforcement officers coming over. That's in September. So we anticipate by November, for the first time in decades, we will be nearly fully staffed, meaning that 500 number, we're almost going to hit it. We are in the process of getting that academy nationally certified. The organization's nationally certified. The comm center, the communication center, is nationally certified. Only 1% of the communication centers in the country are nationally certified, and our academy is about to become nationally certified. What the importance of that is outside individuals come in and assess everything that you're doing, and you either meet or exceed national standards. That's a hell of a feather. We're going to have all three of those things accomplished by this time next year, and there's only one or two other organizations in the state of Florida that have that. And before I turn it over to Captain Powers, the last thing that we initiated, which is about to go statewide, what we're doing here is about to be implemented throughout the rest of the state. We started what's called the Family Reunification Center / Juvenile Assessment Center. Juvenile crime is on the rise, in particular juveniles with violent crime. On July 3rd in DeLand, you had a bunch of 15, 16, and 17-year-olds decide they were going to commit a murder. There were guns all over the place. Half of them have no criminal history whatsoever, and that's what we're seeing more and more of. What this reunification center is, the county bought the old United Way building out on International Speedway Boulevard, and they used ARPA funds to give me a 3-year funding source for $400,000. Any juvenile in the county that is arrested goes there, whether they steal a chocolate bar or whether they commit a gunpoint robbery. Under that roof are all the social service providers: mental health, anger management, substance abuse, family counselors, you name it. We have contracts with 7 other entities. The school district is in there. So when that kid comes through, he's completely assessed from head to toe. The family comes in, they're completely assessed head to toe, and then they're given a program to follow before they even see a judge. Because what happens is you arrest a kid in January for breaking into a car. He doesn't see a judge for 90 days. Well, in the process, he gets locked up 3 more times for more serious crime. So that's how that works when you're arrested. The biggest email I get is from parents saying, hey, you know, something's not right with my kid. He comes home, he smells like weed, his marks are dropping, I don't like who he's hanging out with. We're able to tell them, come on in. We have counselors to help figure out what the problem is to get you moving. So DJJ, the Department of Juvenile Justice, they constantly are auditing us, which is a good thing, and they like our model so much, we're looking at probably getting some more state funding to expand services, and they're going to take our model and move that into the 18 other juvenile assessment centers around the state of Florida, because they're starting to see that there is some return on investment here, which is an important thing. So I am going to turn it over to Captain Powers.
Sheriff, before you do that, so may I ask you a question?
Yes.
Okay, so you have been in our community for a long time, and I've worked for you and around you, and I thank you for your service. Will you tell us why you serve?
Well, unlike the chief, I didn't want to help anybody. I just thought it was cool to carry a gun and wear a badge. No, I can't say that. You know, I really didn't know anything else in life. I was born in November of '63. My father became a cop in January of '64. So all I remember in life is my father and police work, and obviously That's just what you gravitated to. And like the chief said, you know, it takes a special breed of person to do this, whether it's police, fire, or EMS, or teach. You wanna, there's something in their DNA that you want to do something to make your community a little bit better than you found it. And when Jim Chizen hired me as the police chief in Daytona Beach, him and the late Mayor Scarlett Golden, I remember asking her, you know, what is it that you want from me? What is it that you want from a police chief? And she held my hand and she said to me, leave it better than you found it. And that's something that I never, ever, ever forgot. Leave it better than you found it.
Beautiful.
So.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sheriff. We appreciate your
Go ahead, ma'am.
service.
She grabbed me because these guys are going to be much more interesting than I am, I can tell you.
One quick question.
In reference to your groundbreaking work with juveniles, Seminole County used to have a program for troubled youth called Operation Right Track that parents could enroll their kids in. It was like a weekend program of classes as well as discipline, and it was run by, I guess, the sheriff's office or whatever. Do we have something like that here in Volusia County?
That's what goes in that center. That center has all different things, and it's made up specifically for your specific individual problem, because it might be anger management, so going to a drug class wouldn't really do any good. And that's what we saw was happening.
Okay.
Just to put a kid in a program, they would put a kid with anger issues in a drug program. Well, the kid's not doing drugs, the kid just wants to beat everybody up.
Yeah.
So that's what we try to do, put round pegs in round holes.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any kind of community service for the youth?
We do, community service for the youth. First, if you're court committed, then we have, the court will tell you what community service you have to do, because we have kids on ankle monitors that they have to do community service, and the judge, and we have to monitor that. The other thing we have is, and I'm sure the fire department is the same thing, is an Explorer program. So if you have an interest in law enforcement, or if you have an interest in wanting to work for the fire department, or if you have an interest in city government, you can come to work for us. You have to be in 8th grade, and it goes up to your senior year. So they learn all the aspects of law enforcement. They learn everything that we do, they learn. Everything that goes on in county government, they learn. And then we give scholarship money out to them. So if they want to go to Daytona State College, they might get $1,000 or $2,000, for their first year in college. So that's what we try to go after. And the schools, I'm going to probably screw this up, the university, New Smyrna, Atlantic, Mainland, all have public service academy classes, your junior and senior year. So if you're interested in law and government, you can take those classes and help get you a step up. And I think they get 4 credits if they go into like Daytona State College. Some of the colleges partner so that if they go through that program and they want to make a move towards city or county government or police, fire, or EMS, they get 2 college credits or 4 credits as they step into their college careers. So there's a lot of stuff out there. It's just that people just don't know where to look is what the issue becomes. But that's a great question.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Captain, it's all yours, Captain Darling.
Hey, good afternoon. I'm Captain Powers. I've just recently taken over the command of District 4. I was a commander of District 3. That's our east side of the county from Flagler to Brevard County. I'm also the bomb team commander currently, so that's when I'll introduce Deputy Durney here in a little bit. But to kind of add on what the captain was, or what the sheriff was saying, pay didn't change, so you're good. So, but to add up on that, when we did that op, that was a 4-day operation with a traffic operation when we wrote the citations, we did all the pulling people over. 2 of the days we got rained out. So really it was like 3 days. And we brought in we had 20 people come into the city to do that operation. So that allowed us to essentially come in and hit all of the areas where the citizens have complaints, because that was one of my major focuses, was that we have a lot of traffic complaints in the city of Deltona. And I specifically wanted a deputy at each one of those complaints. And not all of those areas were high-ticketed complaints. We might have 1 or 2 in an hour, but I wanted to make sure that we put people there to either say, hey, what you perceive as speeding wasn't really speeding, because sometimes that happens a lot. Or you have a very valid complaint, we're going to spend more time there. So if we would have just went to higher areas like off of 415 or Doyle or some of the areas that we know people speed constantly, those numbers would have been up even higher. Although we did have people there, we just didn't focus all of our time in specific places. I wanted to go all around it. So to show everybody that this is your complaint, this is what we want to focus on as well. So that helped a lot. From there, we can move into some of how our crimes are. So in the city, everything's based off of UCR, and that's just how we report it out to the FBI. So in that, our clearance rate is roughly upwards of almost 70% and almost across the board, which I believe nationally is 20%, roughly around 20% for a clearance rate. So anywhere else in the country you go, you have a 20% chance to clear your crime when you call in a crime and say, hey, someone broke into my house or someone stole this. In this city, you're looking at almost 70%. So we are on it. The deputies here love what they do. They love catching bad guys. They like going out and solving crimes for the city and the citizens in here, and the detectives are as well. So that is a huge positive that we have in this city, that yes, we can't always stop crime, because I can't stop someone from being a horrible person, but we can catch them and make them pay for it. So on this side, some of the things that you guys receive in Deltona and we get is, one thing, we have a bomb team. We're the only bomb team in the county, and half a flagler. We cover half a flagler as well. So with that, we have explosive detective canines. That's what this canine is right here. And he comes out and he helps us. So I'm going to have Deputy Durney come over here. I know everybody wants to see the dogs. They like talking about the dogs when they show up. Nobody cares about me anymore, which I completely am fine with. But I'll let him explain that.
All right, start talking. Sorry, I tried. Here, Bruce. Good morning. Thank you for having me. My name is Deputy Joe Durney. I am one of 6 explosive detection canine handlers in the Sheriff's Office. I am assigned over at the airport, so that's my primary function, is over at the airport. I'm also the canine unit instructor for odor, so I train the narcotics dogs, the electronics detection dogs, as well as the explosive detection dogs. All of our dogs are imported from overseas. Their bloodlines can be traced back to pre-World War II, so we know what we're getting when we purchase these dogs. There's a lot that goes into them. The explosive dogs, well, I'll start off with everyone knows drug dogs, they find drugs. They find 5 odors, because that's what our main illicit drugs are, 5 different odors. For him, he needs to find 20,000. So there's a lot more training that goes into these dogs. Now, we can separate that down to different families of explosives. You know, we look for certain things. But in the grand scheme of things, he's responsible for about 20,000 things. He knows what he's doing. He's good at it. He has the attention span of a flea right now, so I apologize for that. But I've been with the Sheriff's Office for almost 20 years, about 19 years I've been with the Sheriff's Office. I've been running dogs for about 14 of those years, and on the bomb squad for about 15. So the passion that I have for it is to make sure everyone in our county is safe. We don't want to have any problems with bombings, terrorist acts. That's what we do. That's our primary duty, is just to respond to things like that. For calls for service, it depends on the time of year, but we stay pretty busy. I know last year, I personally myself, been to about 200 canine deployments, and that's just me. You know, we have 5 other dogs, so you do the math. That's a lot of service we do with it's a lot that we do, but a lot of it is behind the scenes, so it's kind of hard to, you know, for the general public to see, you know, why do we need all these things? Why do we do this? Well, we stay very, very busy. With the special events we have at the Speedway, city events, you know, we come up for the fireworks festivals. We do a lot of things like that, so we do stay fairly busy. The dogs will work about 8 to 10 years. That does depend on the dog's health. My last dog, he worked for almost 11 years, and he's still retired. He's at the house getting fat and happy, which is great. But he's 5 years old now, so he's right in his prime. And once we train our dogs, it takes about 8 weeks of structured training, but it's ongoing. We train twice a month, structured training, but daily we're doing things with the dogs on a daily basis. Anytime I bring this dog out, he thinks it's time to work, which is why he's kind of looking around. He thinks I'm going to make him search this room, and we're going to, you know, find stuff, and we're going to save the day. His name, I forgot to tell you, his name is Galt, G-A-L-T. That's his name, not golf. A lot of people think I'm saying golf. I'm from Boston, so I kind of have that accent. But do you guys have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Deputy, I do. So what is your training to be the trainer in that unit?
So we start out, we have to be FDLE certified as a general instructor, which is a 64-hour course. We have to sell ourselves basically by doing presentations and teaching small classes within our actual class. Once you do that, I worked over at our old training, before we had the academy. I was one of the part-time instructors over there, so we did some just general education teaching. Get that under your belt, then you go through a specialized training academy or class. It's called just a canine instructor, and that class was 8 weeks, plus I did a 2-week internship with the company we use at Southern Coast Canine. They're out of New Smyrna Beach. So I trained and I taught one of their basic handler schools over there, and then you get certified. And then every 3 years, we have to do, I think it's 3 years for general ed. Every 3 years, we have to recertify. Basically what we do is, as long as we have enough hours we're teaching throughout the year, they'll reinstate, they'll keep your instructor certification active.
Okay, and I guess we're close to 500 deputies. How many animal handlers do you have?
I think department-wide, I think we're up to, is it 19? Dog handlers, including full service, yeah.
So how competitive is it, Deputy, to get into that unit if there's 500 of us and I want to work for that unit, and what makes somebody rise to the top?
It's extremely competitive just because we don't have that many. To strive to the top, we have two kind of separate entities within the canine unit. There's the apprehension or the full service side, and there's a single purpose side. Single purpose side is the drug dogs, the explosive dogs, the electronics detection dog. Their sole purpose is just finding odor. We don't chase bad guys, we don't bite bad guys, we don't do that. The full service side does that. So to rise to the top, you want someone who's proactive, you want someone who's going to not be afraid to go out there and do their job, put people in jail when they need to be, write good reports. So it just takes a well-rounded person. It takes dedication, because this is a 24/7 deal with him. He's like my little 5-year-old kid. I take him everywhere I go. He's needy. He always needs something. But as far as partners go, they're the best ones out there.
He lives with you, right?
He does. Yes, he does.
And for those handlers that have the canines at their homes, how do you integrate them with the children and the family members of the home?
That really depends on the dog. Some of the dogs are what we call non-approachable, where we don't want them interacting too much with people if we don't have to, but they're still part of the family. It's like for me, for an example, is he has an outdoor kennel. Now, when I say it's outdoors, it's got running water, it's got air conditioning. I mean, it's a nice little bachelor pad he has out there. So he's well taken care of outside. A lot of them, too, don't want to be cooped up inside a house. They want to be outside so they can see what's going on. They're always on alert. They're always just looking for something to do. They're very task-oriented. So to bring them inside the house, they get into things. They're very mischievous. Like with him, when I bring him home, if I bring him inside my house, he searches my house every day and he looks for something. And it's hard to shut them off. Some of the dogs, they have a switch. You bring them home, they're off duty, they're just hanging out doing their thing. Some other dogs, it's just hard to get them to stop. And one thing in the selection process, because I do a lot of the selection for the single purpose side, I'm looking for that sense of urgency in the dog. They're not pets. They're not something that they're just going to curl up on the couch with you, take them for a walk every once in a while. These guys, they're high drive, they have a job, they're good at their jobs, and we want to make sure we keep them good at their jobs. So it really depends on the handler, how they want to do that. My last dog before him, he was inside the house, he would do his thing, and when I brought him home, took his collar off. He was great with I have a daughter, he was great with my daughter. He loves my daughter, but he won't leave her alone. He'll just track her around the house, follow her, see where she's going. So he spends most of his time in the kennel, but like I said, it's a little bachelor pad he has out there, so it's nice. But then some of the other dogs, even some of our most seasoned patrol dogs, they stay inside the homes of the handlers. So it just depends on the person, and it depends on the dog.
So my last question that I think people might be interested in, and it's kind of a sad subject, but they are considered a deputy, or they are as held as much respect as deputies are. So when one is in a situation where it's fallen in the line of duty, they receive probably the same treatment that an officer or a deputy would, correct?
They do.
Would you explain that?
Absolutely. They're very selfless. They do what you want them to do because they want to do it. It's not because they're getting paid to do it. It's not because they're being told by, command, say, hey, I need you to go do this. They just know that's what they need to do. And they want to do it better every time. There's no vacation days for them. I mean, they take, obviously they're off when we're off, but they're always wanting to do something. So when we do have the unfortunate event, when we do lose one, they get the full gamut of respect, and they have, they have services, and they're very well taken care of, absolutely. And I always say that the dog always outranks the handler by 1. So this is Sergeant Galt down here, and he kind of tells me what to do. I just take him to work. If I could teach him how to drive, I don't think I'd have to go to work anymore, because he does everything else for me, which is nice.
Awesome. What questions do we have from our participants? Chaz?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
The weather is really hot right now, and the asphalt gets really hot, and it's bad for their feet. And they're in all kinds of situations. What kind of protective gear do they have to wear? And it's got to be heavy for them, right?
It's heavy and cumbersome. That's an excellent question, because I do get that a lot. They do sell dog booties. I'm sure people have seen them. They're all over the place. A lot of dogs have a hard time walking. They look like they're on the moon when they're walking. They do get used to them. But the way we combat that is we limit the amount of time we're going to put them on that pavement. Because outside right now, I have a thermometer in my truck that I can hit the ground, that I can see what the temperature is. I'd say about 120 degrees on the ground is about the most they can tolerate before they start being uncomfortable. About 130 is when you're going to start seeing them really, we call it soft step or claw step. So really, we just try to limit the amount of time. Like if I can walk on the grass to get to where I need to go, I'm going to put him on the grass. I always will keep a bottle of water in my pocket so I can spray his feet down if I need to, and also give him water if he needs it. But they do have cooling vests. They do have the booties. So we have the ability to use those if need be. But a lot of times they kind of get in the way of their jobs because they're looking at it, they're scratching at it. So we just try to limit the amount of time we keep them on the pavement.
Awesome. Good question. Anybody else? Oh, here we go.
When a dog is retired, is it possible for the member of the public to get to adopt a dog?
It's possible, but you'd have to fight the handler for the dog. Yeah.
Okay.
They become part of our family. They become, attached at the hip, and the bond that we share with these dogs, it's kind of unbreakable. But there have been situations where if a handler is getting another dog, or he just can't take care of the dog, they will put them out for adoption. I haven't seen it in a long time, but it is possible, absolutely. Some other agencies, they don't allow that. They say, listen, it has to go to another law enforcement officer, or it has to go to something to that effect, or stays with you. But yeah, there's possibilities, but absolutely.
There's a system where somebody can register for that?
There's not a system per se. That would be kind of at the right place at the right time, if that would happen. So
just keep your eyes open, in other words. But,
yep. Now, one thing you could do, the vendor that we use, they do, there's some dogs that they wash out of training. Because if we tested 12 dogs, I would probably pass 2 of them. And just because we're nitpickers, we want them to be perfect. We want everything to look it has to be in a straight line, or it's not right. So a lot of dogs don't make the cut. Because they come imported from overseas, sometimes it's cheaper for the vendors to adopt them out, and they have adoption programs. So you might be able to reach out to one of them. And but just I always caution people, these are alpha dogs. They're high drive, high speed, low drag. They're gonna take you places. So you just got to be prepared for that. So absolutely. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate your time. Any other questions? I didn't miss anybody? Well, let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. You can just lay it on the podium because Mr. Chisholm will use it. So at this time, our city manager, Mr. Chisholm, who's been with us now since I think October, is going to come up and give us some closing remarks, and then I'll wrap up the program. And we're so glad you're here today, Mr. Chisholm.
Good morning. Y'all asleep? Not with all these. Great staff members, and Chief did a great job with your presentation. I hope you've had a wonderful time with all the staff of the city, having an opportunity to share with you the things they do every day. And it's probably interesting, if you're not in government, you probably don't realize that, we have engineers, we have people that are experts in every field that we deal with, and they make sure that our city runs right. And so we're fortunate here, have great staff, and I hope you've enjoyed your time with us, and please share with your friends the experiences you had with us, and because we're going to have some more classes. They won't be right away, but we'll be doing some more, and because we want people to know really what the city's doing for you, and that's very important for the city. But do you have any questions before I go? Great. Well, thank you so much for giving your time and participating with the city. There is a ComStat meeting coming next Thursday, I believe, here, which is the Sheriff's Department will have a comprehensive report on all the activities within the city by his department. So if you have time, keep that in mind, and look forward to seeing you. Have a great day.
Beautiful, thank you. Uh-oh, now Jim does have a question. You just triggered him to have a thought. Hang on.
Sorry, Mr. Chipsom, it takes me a minute to think of things once in a while. You were talking about additional classes. Any chances of evening classes for those that are working?
Yeah, we'll take a look at it because it takes a lot of time. We'll take a look at that.
And we do have it televised, so every episode can be seen. So that's how I think we had talked about kind of covering that.
Am I on TV this morning?
Yes, you are, sir.
Okay.
So anyway, well, thank you, Mr. Chisholm. We appreciate your time, and thank you for being with us. So on your tables, you have the green bags. That's just some goodies from the city of Deltona. You have the magazine, gave you a certificate. I want to thank you because this was my first opportunity. I've been here 5 months now to be able to come out and start meeting some of the residents and stuff, and it's been an honor. I think everybody has my business card. Please call me. Please stay in touch. We're glad you were here. We're thankful for all you do. I will send an email, hopefully today, by tomorrow, if you want to give me feedback. I didn't put a survey on the table, but I would love to hear from you. If you want to meet with me, call me, or send me a beautiful email or a terrible email, whichever works. I would be happy to receive it because we want to make this better, and we want you to recommend this to your friends and your neighbors. So I wish you a good day, and thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think he has a lot on his plate right now with work, so. Will you want to plan or something like that, or? Okay, that would be. Is that my card?